Seriously. Just because our fathers are good friends. They keep pushing us to get married. I'm getting older too, so my dad is urging me to settle down soon. Then, Kevin, do you not love your wife? Of course not. Such an older woman. I'm just marrying her for appearances. The only one I love is you, Lisa. I felt a chill run down my spine during this conversation. This is Kevin's true nature. And this woman, Lisa, who exactly is she? To think she would do something like this with a husband who has a wedding tomorrow. I wanted to confront them right away, but I paused to think. Such terrible treatment can't be settled with just a complaint. That's when I had a brilliant idea. I first sent a message to my dad on my smartphone. Dad, are you still there? I'm going to send a video call soon, so please watch carefully. I want you to show it to all our relatives. Then, I broadcasted it live in front of everyone. Everyone, it's starting. At that moment, everyone from both families expressed their shock. At what appeared on the screen of the smartphone I sent. I am Mandy Clark, a 45-year-old office worker. When I was over 40, I was troubled by not being able to marry. Perhaps my ideals for marriage were too high. I had a cousin who was 10 years older than me. She married at 21 during the height of the economic bubble. Her husband was a man of the so-called the three highs: high education, high income, high height. As a child, I envied her marriage and dreamed of having a similar one when I grew up. However, by the time I entered middle school, the bubble had burst. By the time I became an adult, it was difficult to meet such ideal men. Many of my friends married out of compromise or calculation. But I didn't want to marry just for the sake of it. Before I knew it, I was over 40 and starting to feel anxious. I lost my mother at a young age and was raised in a father-only household. My father was my strong ally. He was hospitalized suddenly due to illness 4 years ago. Worried about my father, I rushed to the hospital every day after work. That's where I met Kevin Clark, who had just become the hospital director. Kevin took over as director from his predecessor, who was my father's friend since high school. Because of that, Kevin often spoke to me when I was in the hospital room. One day, as I was about to go home, Kevin called out to me. "Excuse me. Would you like to have dinner together?" Surprised by the sudden invitation, but also pleased, I happily accepted. Yes, I'd love to. That night, we talked about our parents over dinner. He had also lost his mother at an early age, and we found a lot in common. After dinner, Kevin suddenly looked at me seriously and said, "Would you mind going out with me?" I was surprised by the sudden confession. However, he was tall and proud of his job. Thinking he might be the one I was looking for, I didn't hesitate to answer. Yes, I'd be happy to. After 3 years of dating, he proposed. Considering our work, we postponed the wedding for a year. First, we looked for a new home and lived together before registering our marriage. All that was left was the wedding. I thought I could finally make my father proud. However, as the wedding approached, dark clouds began to gather between Kevin and me. After registering our marriage, strange things started happening. Most of my belongings were still at my parents' house. After marriage, I started bringing them to our new home. I continued working after marriage, so I was often away from home. Thus, I left valuables like jewelry and handbags at my parents' house. One day, when we were about to go out, Kevin saw me returning to my parents' house to get my handbag. "Mandy, it's troublesome to go back to fetch things every time we go out. This house is well secured, so it's better to keep your valuables here." Indeed, when we bought this house, we subscribed to a 24-hour surveillance service. It seemed safer than leaving them at my parents'. Since then, I moved all my possessions to our new home. However, I soon noticed that my belongings started to disappear. There were no signs of outside intrusion, which was strange. I thought about asking Kevin but hesitated, not wanting to seem accusatory. The missing items were mostly cosmetics and jewelry, things women use. My favorite shampoo in the bathroom also disappeared several times. It was a valuable item only available through online ordering. Only my shampoo kept disappearing, which was odd. Kevin used his own shampoo, so it didn't seem like he would take mine. I was concerned but didn't tell Kevin to avoid seeming irresponsible. I never imagined that this would lead to regrettable circumstances. And the wedding was approaching. Kevin's night shifts continued, and he often went out on Sundays and holidays for conferences. With many preparations for the wedding, we hardly had time to see each other. I reluctantly went to the venue with my father and father-in-law for meetings. Kevin had taken care of the venue and invitations early. So what was left were the reception and gifts. Still, there were things I wanted to decide with Kevin, especially the dress fitting. Despite this, Kevin suggested that I just decide on the dress myself. I waited for a time when we were both home and asked Kevin, "Hey, I wish you could come to the meetings sometimes. I want you to help me choose my dress. Can't you skip your conferences on the weekends just once?" When I said this, Kevin looked a bit flustered and glanced around before replying. "What? No, I can't miss the conferences. I'm fine with whatever dress you like, Mandy. I'll leave the reception and the gifts to you and your father-in-law. So, I'm counting on you." I was disappointed by Kevin's words. A conference that you must attend. And right before our wedding? Why does it have to be now? You wouldn't understand, Mandy, you're not in the medical field. Anyway, it's something I absolutely can't miss. I found Kevin's dismissive attitude suspicious. However, with the wedding approaching, I didn't want to argue. Reluctantly, I had to go along with Kevin's wishes. Then one day, while I was working in the morning, I realized I had left some documents at home for an afternoon meeting. Oh no. I've been so busy with work and wedding preparations, I forgot. I need to go back and get them quickly. I explained the situation to my boss and was allowed to go home during my break. Luckily, our new home wasn't too far from my office, so I could go back and forth during the break. When I hurried home, I noticed a strange figure in the living room as I approached the house. I couldn't believe my eyes. One person was Kevin, returning home after a night shift. But there was also a young woman I didn't recognize. She was sitting on the sofa next to Kevin. Kevin had his arm around her shoulder and seemed to be talking to her. I tried listening from outside the wall, but couldn't hear anything due to the soundproofing. I was curious about the woman's identity, but I was running out of time. I quietly entered through the back door, grabbed the documents, and left without being noticed. I didn't want to believe that Kevin was cheating just before our wedding. But they seemed too close to be just friends. I suppressed my desire to confront them and returned to the office. I made it in time for the meeting, but my mind was elsewhere. Kevin always mentioned his night shifts and conferences, but was he really telling the truth? Could he have been using these excuses to meet with another woman all this time? These thoughts kept crossing my mind at work. After that, Kevin and I rarely saw each other, even on weekends. I thought about checking with my father-in-law, but I couldn't bring myself to ask. If Kevin was lying, I didn't want to worry my father-in-law. As the wedding approached, I became increasingly anxious. If only my mother were here, I could have confided in her. I didn't want to burden others, so I had no friends to talk to. All my friends who were attending the wedding were happy for me. I couldn't disappoint them by revealing my doubts. I hoped that what I saw that day with Kevin and the unknown woman was just an illusion. I was trying to escape from reality in my mind. With these feelings, I faced the day before the wedding. Kevin, even on the eve of such an important day, Said he would be working late and wouldn't be home until midnight. He suggested this as he left for work. Since it's the night before our wedding, why don't you spend it at your father's house? I'll be home late. Feeling restless at home, I decided to take his advice and spend the night at my parents' house. I timed my arrival with my father's return from work. When I got there, my father greeted me at the door. "Mandy, you're back. Actually, we're having a celebration with both families tonight. So, I invited everyone here." I was surprised, as I hadn't heard anything about it. As I entered, everyone clapped and greeted me. "Congratulations, Mandy." "Oh, thank you." I thanked them, feeling a bit shy. I joined the celebration for a while, receiving everyone's blessings. But I thought it best to rest early for tomorrow. After having just one drink, I returned home. Feeling mentally exhausted, I was suddenly overcome with sleepiness. Deciding to take a bath in the morning, I went straight to bed upstairs. I fell asleep around 8 p.m. and woke up in the middle of the night. It was just after 11 p.m. Since I was wide awake, I thought of taking a bath. As I got up from bed and headed downstairs, I heard some noises from the bathroom. I thought Kevin might be taking a bath, but I also heard a woman's voice. Could it be that Kevin and the young woman from the living room were together again? Feeling anxious, I quietly peeked into the bathroom. There, I saw Kevin and the same woman from the other day. They were about to get into the bathtub together. It seemed clear she was his affair partner. And then, Kevin said something shocking. "Seriously? Just because our fathers are good friends, they keep pushing us to get married. I'm getting older too, so my dad is urging me to settle down soon." "Then, Kevin, do you not love your wife?" "Of course not. Such an older woman. I'm just marrying her for appearances. The only one I love is you, Lisa." I felt a chill run down my spine during this conversation. This is Kevin's true nature. And this woman, Lisa, who exactly is she? To think she would do something like this with a husband who has a wedding tomorrow. And without any remorse, she said something odd. "But Kevin, you're amazing. Building such a big house and buying me nice things." Well, my dad did contribute a bit to this house. And Mandy earns enough to buy her own stuff. Such women don't need to be supported. That's why I can buy you an apartment. Yay! I'm so happy. But won't your wife find out? No need to worry. She hasn't even noticed that her jewelry and stuff are missing. Oh, I took those, but they were in such an old lady's taste, so unfashionable. So, I just sold them all. So, the missing belongings were indeed Kevin's doing. And he had given them to his mistress, unforgivable. I felt my clenched fists trembling with rage. Then Lisa picked up my shampoo and said, "This shampoo is really good, isn't it? I'll take it home again today." Why not? She's always shopping online anyway. If she runs out of that shampoo, she'll just order more. So, Lisa was the one taking my frequently missing shampoo. It was as if she thought everything in this house was hers. But more than that, my heart felt torn apart. With the wedding right around the corner, and to be betrayed like this by Kevin. I wanted to storm into the bathroom right then and scold them, but I thought better of it. Just complaining wouldn't be enough for such awful treatment. That's when I had a great idea. I sent a message to my dad on my smartphone. "Dad, is everyone still there? I'm about to send a video call, so please watch it. I want all the relatives to see it too." After sending the message, it was read immediately. "What's up? Indeed, everyone is still here. Are you going to make a speech at the pre-wedding party? You'll see. Oh, make sure to record the video I send." I then switched to the video call in the messaging app and quietly opened the bathroom door. Everyone, it's starting. I broadcast the scene with Kevin and Lisa as if I was live commentating. Of course, the video clearly showed them in the bathroom up to no good. Whoa. What's this? What's going on? Eek. Stop it, will you? The two panicked at the sudden event. Ignoring them, I continued my commentary. Everyone, look. The groom-to-be, who is supposed to have a wedding tomorrow, is in the bath with a young lady. I could hear the murmurs and screams from my relatives at home through the call. Someone even screamed in shock. My father-in-law shouted as he watched the video. What is this? I continued, feeling sorry for shocking my father-in-law. And who might this be with Kevin? How long have you two been involved like this? Mandy. Enough already. Whoops. The cheating husband is losing his temper. Does he even understand his position? I relentlessly continued my commentary, angering Kevin. Next to him, Lisa trembled, clinging to him. Seeing them on screen, my father-in-law looked furious. Then, seizing the phone from my dad, he stared intently at the screen. Kevin, what are you doing at a time like this? And the woman with you, isn't that our nurse, Lisa? Turns out, Lisa was a nurse working at Kevin's hospital. I continued the commentary, pretending to be calm. Oh? An unexpected revelation. The mistress is actually the subordinate of the groom, Kevin. Mandy, that's enough, I understand. My father-in-law said that and then ended the call. He must have been shocked to know his son was having an affair with a subordinate at home. I felt regretful for causing my father-in-law such distress. I was distraught after witnessing Kevin's infidelity. Hanging my head in regret, Kevin taunted me. See? You made Dad angry. How are you going to fix this? You've ruined my reputation as the successor of the hospital. If anything happens, you're responsible. Yeah, right. You should be grateful he was even willing to marry you. So, know your place a little. The two of them blamed me, as if it was me who had done something wrong. It felt like I was the one at fault. I was filled with frustration but couldn't say anything back to them. Then, the doorbell rang. I checked the monitor and saw my dad and father-in-law outside. Not just them, but all the relatives who had attended the pre-wedding party too. I opened the front door and let everyone in. My father looked very worried when he saw me. Mandy, are you all right? It must have been hard. But it's okay, now. Everyone is on your side. Dad, thank you. As soon as I saw my father's face, tears I had been holding back started to flow. I was indeed feeling very bitter and hurt. I broke down crying, sitting on the spot. The relatives comforted me, patting my head and back. I sobbed uncontrollably. My father-in-law rushed to the bathroom and burst in without knocking. Hey. Kevin. What the hell are you doing? Whoa. Dad. Eek. What now? They reacted in surprise, just like when I had entered earlier. More relatives followed them in. What? Why are all of you here? Oh my God. Everyone, leave us alone. My father-in-law became even more enraged at Kevin and Lisa's unapologetic attitude. Do you two realize what you're doing? Get out of there now. We'll talk afterward. Do young girls nowadays have no sense of shame at all? My aunt said this, looking disgusted at Lisa. The two, covering themselves with towels, hastily got out of the bath and headed to the changing area. However, their clothes were not there. In fact, I had secretly hidden them before filming with my smartphone. Hey, where did our clothes go? Kevin, with a towel wrapped around his waist, looked bewildered. I almost burst out laughing. Lisa was sitting on the floor, shivering with fear. Everyone looked at the two with disdain. Hey, let us change in the bedroom. We'll catch a cold like this. No. No. Please help me. My father-in-law's treatment was harsh. He probably thought they would escape if allowed to change. Just sit down for now. Kevin, why did you do this? Explain yourself properly. Well, it's because I married Mandy because Dad told me to. She wasn't really my type. What? You never mentioned such a thing. Well, I'm the successor, and Dad's word is absolute. I thought I'd risk losing my position as director if I went against him. My father-in-law looked utterly dumbfounded by Kevin's explanation. The relatives all had shocked expressions. Marrying out of obligation. Hearing this, I felt unbearably sad. My father-in-law, noticing my distress, spoke kindly to me. Mandy, I'm sorry for the pain my son has caused you. It's truly regrettable. No. It's not your fault, Father. Please, don't feel that way. It's just, we were supposed to have the wedding tomorrow. And now this has happened. His words made my heart ache. I had eagerly awaited the wedding, but now I couldn't feel happy about it. As I looked down somberly, my father put his hand on my shoulder. Andy, you don't have to force yourself anymore. I will explain everything to the guests who were to attend the wedding. That meant the wedding was to be called off. I couldn't continue a marital life with Kevin under these circumstances. So, the only option was to cancel the wedding. Just as this seemed settled, Kevin remarked happily. Huh. So, am I free now? No. That's not happening. My father-in-law's expression turned stern again. What? Why? We're not getting married anymore, right? You had an affair with a young nurse at our hospital. It's only known to the family now, but soon it will spread through the hospital. We can't keep someone like that as the director. Right. Kevin has dishonored his parents. He's disqualified as a successor. The other relatives nodded in agreement. Does that mean I'm fired? Yes, that's right. My father-in-law nodded affirmatively, and Kevin began making pathetic excuses. That's ridiculous. I was deceived. She seduced me with her youth. It's not my fault. Kevin pointed at Lisa, trying to blame her entirely. How unmanly of him. Lisa, with tears in her eyes, looked shocked. That's terrible, Kevin. You said you only loved me. That you were marrying her out of obligation to your parents. Was it all lies about buying me an apartment? Kevin's poor excuses seemed to have backfired, as Lisa exposed everything in front of everyone. Idiot, don't say unnecessary things. Kevin said this, his face turning red, and collapsed on the spot. My father-in-law looked down at him and spoke in a disappointed tone. Kevin, I really misjudged you. If you had shown any remorse, I would have considered a more lenient approach. I could have even arranged a position at a known hospital. What? Dad, you should have said that earlier. Fool. How corrupt can you be? My father-in-law scolded Kevin with a ferocity I had never seen before. Even Kevin was silenced by this. After a moment, my father-in-law began to speak. I wanted to repay a debt of gratitude to a man who helped me in the past. That's why I wanted you, Kevin, to make his granddaughter, Mandy, happy. But now, I can't face Mandy's grandfather with the way things are. What? What does that mean? Kevin looked puzzled. I, too, was unaware that my grandfather had been a benefactor to my father-in-law. My grandfather had passed away when I was young. Then, my father-in-law elaborated on my grandfather. He had established his hospital in a single generation but struggled with the financial aspects. My maternal grandfather, who was the head of a major local bank at the time, had helped him. My grandfather frequently visited the General Hospital's gastroenterology department for peptic ulcers. My father-in-law was his attending physician at the time. He had aspired to own his hospital even back then. He consulted my grandfather about the financial aspects and received support for his hospital's establishment. At that time, my father-in-law had fallen in love with my mother, the daughter of his benefactor. He boldly confessed his feelings, but by then, my mother was already in a relationship with my father. After sharing such a poignant love story, my father-in-law turned his gaze back to Kevin. That's why, Kevin, you owe your current position to Mandy's grandfather. I wanted you to make Mandy happy because of that. Then, Lisa spoke up. What's that supposed to mean? That's just the parents' convenience, isn't it? Deciding on a son's marriage partner for such a reason is terrible. Shut up. The mistress should keep quiet. No. Scary. Kevin, help me. Lisa clung to Kevin, begging for help. But Kevin shook off her hand and shook his head slightly. I'm sorry, Lisa. There's nothing I can do now. No way. As Lisa sobbed, my father-in-law addressed her. That's the situation. Unfortunately, Lisa, you'll have to leave the hospital. What? That's so unfair. It can't be helped. Your actions could jeopardize the hospital's reputation. Lisa was completely intimidated by his words. Seeing this, I decided to deliver the final blow. While we're on the subject, I'll be demanding compensation from you. Even if you refuse, we have evidence. No way. I've lost my job. And I bought a lot of household items expecting Kevin to buy me an apartment. But that promise is gone too. All that's left is the loan repayment. What am I supposed to do now? Well, that's your own fault for messing with someone else's husband. Consider it a penalty and give up on it. As I retorted, Lisa burst into loud tears. Unconcerned, I also nailed Kevin. By the way, Kevin, I'll be expecting compensation from you as well. And bring the divorce papers tomorrow for your signature. Exactly. I also can't forgive you for betraying Mandy, the granddaughter of my benefactor. Not just from the hospital, but I want you out of our family as well. In other words, you're disowned. Voices from around us echoed, that's right, that's right. Kevin and Lisa slumped down, defeated. After submitting the divorce papers, my divorce from Kevin was finalized. The new house, though difficult to sell, eventually found a buyer at less than half the original price. It was a custom-built house with unique specifications. Of course, the proceeds from the sale went to me as part of the divorce settlement. Kevin lost his wife and all his assets. Cut off by his parents, he couldn't return home. He struggled to find a new job while living alone. I knew about this because our fathers still kept in touch. According to my father, every time he met my ex-father-in-law, he would complain about Kevin. Even now, disowned, Kevin would repeatedly show up at his parents' house, begging for forgiveness at the front door. Of course, my ex-father-in-law wouldn't let him in. And then I heard through the grapevine that Lisa had gone to Kevin's place. She was still upset about not getting the promised apartment. She would nag him, hurry up and get back to being a doctor so you can spoil me with luxury. Kevin, fed up, even called me. Mandy, I was wrong to be deceived by a younger woman. I won't cheat ever again, let's get back together. He pleaded with tears, but I replied back in a similar tone. I was wrong to be deceived by your status. So, I'll stop choosing men based on their job or looks. Let's each live our own lives. So, goodbye. Hey, wait. Before he could finish, I hung up and immediately blocked his number. I also blocked him on all email and messaging apps. According to my father, Lisa works at a nightclub. And Kevin struggles with part-time jobs while looking for work. But their affair scandal has reached the ears of all medical professionals in the area. My father said it's unlikely Kevin will find a job in the medical field again. It's said that when medical professionals visit Lisa's workplace, the story of their affair becomes the main topic of conversation. As a result, the reputation of the place where Lisa works gets tarnished, leading to her being fired from job after job. Still, Lisa holds on to the hope that Kevin will return to being a doctor. They reportedly moved to a remote area in the countryside to find a job, with Lisa dragging a reluctant Kevin along. Now, no one knows where the two of them have ended up. As for me, I've moved back to my parents' home and commute to work from there. I'm not thinking about marriage for a while. Not just because of my own failed marriage. It turns out my cousin, who I thought had an ideal marriage, recently went through a late-in-life divorce. However, she seems to be preparing gradually for independence. Now, she appears to be thriving, enjoying her work and hobbies. So, I've decided to enjoy my time being single for a while. That was until one day, a male colleague from the same department approached me. "I heard you've been through a lot recently?" Well, it's kind of like a war story. My divorce scandal had become a well-known story at the office. Although slightly embarrassed, I always responded with a smile when asked about it. Then, David Parker, with a serious expression, said to me, "Actually, I've been interested in you since I transferred here. But you were engaged, so I gave up on the idea." He then asked me out for lunch during break time. David, 2 years younger than me, transferred to our company 3 years ago. Since then, we've been working in the same department. I hadn't been particularly conscious of him, but he was always kind. He would subtly support me whenever I made a mistake. Maybe someone like David is the ideal partner for me. I thought I wouldn't consider marriage for a while. But perhaps a good person was closer than I thought. It seems I had completely overlooked that until now. Everyone experiences failure once or twice. Thinking about it that way, I've started to consider this opportunity more positively. I'm already in my mid-40s, but age doesn't matter when it comes to happiness. After all, life only happens once.